The morning mist clung to the Colorado River like a shroud, thick and silver, in the early dawn light of 1882. Samuel Mitchell walked the familiar path along the water's edge, his weathered boots crushing the dew-soaked grass beneath him. At 43, he moved with the careful deliberation of a man who had learned that life offered few surprises worth hoping for. His ranch stretched across 2,000 acres of Colorado territory, a testament to years of back-breaking work and bitter solitude. The silence was his companion now. It had been 3 years since Martha died of fever, 2 since his only son rode off to seek fortune in California and never returned. The house that once echoed with laughter now held only the sound of Samuel's footsteps and the occasional creak of settling wood. As he rounded the bend, where the river curved past a cluster of cottonwoods, something caught his eye. A splash of color against the muddy bank, fabric, he realized, attached to a still form, half submerged in the shallow water. Samuel's heart lurched. He broke into a run, his long legs covering the distance quickly. As he drew closer, he could make out the details. A young woman unconscious, her long black hair spread like ink across the water. Her deerskin dress was torn and stained with blood from a gash on her shoulder. Her skin was bronze, her features unmistakably Apache. For a moment, Samuel hesitated. The territory was tense, with reports of Apache raids to the south and cavalry patrols increasing their presence. Taking in an Apache woman, even an injured one, could bring trouble he wasn't prepared for. But as he looked at her face, peaceful in unconsciousness, he saw not an enemy, but a human being in need. "What happened to you?" he murmured, wading into the cold water. Samuel lifted her carefully, surprised by how light she felt in his arms. Her breathing was shallow but steady, and he could feel the faint flutter of her pulse against his chest. She was alive, but barely. The wound on her shoulder was deep, likely from a blade or broken branch. Without proper care, infection would set in. The walk back to his ranch house felt endless. Samuel found himself talking to her unconscious form, his voice rusty from disuse. "You're safe now. I don't know what brought you to my river, but you're safe." His ranch house sat in a clearing surrounded by aspens, their leaves already turning gold with the approach of autumn. It was a simple structure, 2 stories of log and stone that Samuel had built with his own hands when he first claimed the land. He carried the young woman to the spare bedroom, Martha's old sewing room that had sat empty for years. As he laid her on the bed, she stirred slightly, her eyelids fluttering. For a brief moment, dark eyes met his, alert, intelligent, and filled with pain. She tried to speak, but only a whisper emerged before unconsciousness claimed her again. Samuel worked methodically, drawing on skills Martha had taught him during their years together. He cleaned the wound with whiskey, wincing at the sharp intake of breath it drew from the unconscious woman. The cut was clean but deep, requiring careful stitching. His large hands, better suited to handling cattle and plow handles, worked with surprising gentleness as he sutured the torn skin. When he finished, he sat back in the chair beside the bed, studying her face. She was young, perhaps 20 or so, with high cheekbones and skin unmarked by the hard lines that life carved into most frontier faces. There was something peaceful about her, even in unconsciousness, a sense of inner strength that reminded him of the old cottonwoods by the river, bent by storms but never broken. The afternoon passed into evening, and still she slept. Samuel found himself checking on her frequently, adjusting the blanket, feeling her forehead for fever. He prepared a simple broth from beef and vegetables, hoping she would wake hungry. As night fell, he settled into the chair beside her bed with a cup of coffee and an old book. The silence that had been his constant companion for 3 years felt different now, expectant rather than empty. Outside, an owl called from the aspens, and the wind whispered through the leaves with a sound like distant voices. Samuel dozed fitfully in the chair, starting awake each time the woman stirred. Near midnight, her eyes opened fully for the first time. She lay perfectly still, taking in her surroundings with the careful assessment of someone accustomed to danger. When her gaze settled on Samuel, he saw no fear, only curiosity. "You're safe," he said quietly, leaning forward slightly. "I found you by the river. You were hurt." She regarded him for a long moment, her dark eyes unreadable. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but clear, with only the faintest trace of an accent. "Why?" The simple question carried weight beyond its single syllable. Samuel understood she was asking why he had helped her, why he had brought her into his home, why he was treating her wounds instead of turning her over to the authorities. "Because you needed help," he answered simply. She studied his face as if searching for deception or hidden motives. Whatever she saw there seemed to satisfy her, because she nodded slightly and closed her eyes again. "What's your name?" Samuel asked. "Ayana," she whispered without opening her eyes. "It means eternal blossom in my language." Samuel smiled for the first time in months. "I'm Samuel Mitchell. This is my ranch." Ayana opened her eyes again, turning her head to look around the room. Her gaze took in the simple furniture, the cross-stitched sampler on the wall that read, "Bless this home," the faded curtains that Martha had sewn years ago. "You live alone," she observed. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Samuel admitted. "For a while now." Something in his tone must have conveyed the depth of that solitude, because Ayana's expression softened slightly. Loneliness is a heavy burden for anyone to carry. They fell into comfortable silence after that. Samuel dozed in his chair while Ayana rested, both of them aware that something significant had shifted in the quiet ranch house. The silence was no longer empty, it was filled with possibility. When dawn broke through the windows, painting the room in shades of gold and amber, Samuel woke to find Ayana watching him with those intelligent dark eyes. "The pain?" he asked. "Better," she said, attempting to sit up. Samuel moved quickly to help her, his large hands gentle on her uninjured arm. "Easy. You lost blood, and that wound needs time to heal." Ayana accepted his help without protest, though he could see the effort it cost her independent spirit. As she sat up, the morning light revealed the true extent of her injuries, bruises on her arms, and a healing cut on her temple he hadn't noticed before. "What happened to you?" Samuel asked gently. Ayana was quiet for so long that he thought she wouldn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady but filled with old pain. "Soldiers came to our winter camp. They said we had to move to the reservation, that the treaty required it. My father, he tried to negotiate, to explain that we had harmed no one, that we only wanted to live in peace on the land where our ancestors are buried." She paused, her hands clenching the blanket. "The soldiers were not interested in negotiation." Samuel's jaw tightened. He had heard stories of such encounters, of misunderstandings that escalated into violence, of treaties that meant different things to different people. "I tried to help my younger brother escape when the shooting started," Ayana continued. "A soldier struck me with his rifle. When I woke, everyone was gone. I wandered for days, trying to find them until I collapsed by your river." The simple recounting carried the weight of tremendous loss. Samuel found himself reaching out, his weathered hand covering hers briefly in a gesture of comfort. "I'm sorry," he said, meaning it completely. Ayana looked at him with surprise. "You have nothing to apologize for." "Maybe not directly, but I'm still sorry it happened to you." For the first time she smiled, a small, tentative expression that transformed her entire face. "You are a good man, Samuel Mitchell." As the morning progressed, Samuel helped Ayana to the kitchen, where she sat at the simple wooden table while he prepared breakfast. She watched him move around the space with practiced efficiency, noting the careful way he set 2 plates, the gentle manner in which he offered her food. "You have done this before," she observed. "Cared for someone who was hurt." Samuel's hands stilled for a moment as he poured coffee. "My wife, before I lost her, she used to say that healing was as much about the heart as the hands." Ayana nodded slowly. "Your wife was wise. What was her name?" "Martha." The name came easily, without the usual stab of pain. "Martha Rose. Tell me about her." Samuel sat across from Ayana, cradling his coffee cup. For 3 years, he had avoided talking about Martha, found it too painful to speak her name aloud. But something about this quiet woman invited confidence. "She was light," he said finally. "Not just happy, but light itself. She could find joy in the smallest things, a wildflower blooming out of season, the sound of rain on the roof, the way the morning sun hit the kitchen window just right." He paused, surprised by the warmth in his voice. "She would have liked you." Ayana tilted her head slightly. "How can you know this?" Samuel considered the question seriously. "Because she believed in helping people who needed help, regardless of who they were or where they came from. And because she always said that the earth brings people together for reasons we don't always understand right away." "She sounds like someone who understood the old ways," Ayana said softly. "My grandmother used to say similar things, that the spirits guide us to where we need to be, even when we cannot see the path ourselves." Samuel looked across the table at this young woman who had appeared in his life like a gift from the river itself. 3 days ago, his world had been defined by loss and solitude. Now, for the first time in years, he felt something stirring in his chest that might have been hope. Outside, the morning sun climbed higher, burning away the mist and revealing the vast landscape that stretched beyond the ranch. Rolling hills dotted with cattle, the distant mountains purple against the sky, and the river that wound through it all like a silver thread connecting past to future. Neither of them knew it yet, but this was the beginning of something that would challenge everything they thought they knew about love, forgiveness, and the courage required to build a bridge between 2 different worlds. The days that followed settled into a rhythm as natural as the rise and fall of the sun. Ayana's physical wounds healed with remarkable speed, but Samuel began to understand that her deeper injuries would take much longer to mend. He watched her sometimes when she thought he wasn't looking, and saw the way her eyes would grow distant, as if she were seeing ghosts in the morning mist. She was stronger than he had first realized. By the 3rd day, she was insisting on helping with small tasks around the house, despite his protests. Samuel would find her in the kitchen before dawn, grinding coffee beans with the careful precision of someone accustomed to making the most of limited resources. Her movements were economical, graceful, and utterly silent, a skill learned from a lifetime of moving undetected through wilderness. "You don't have to do that," Samuel said on the 4th morning, finding her already preparing breakfast. Ayana looked up from the cast-iron skillet where bacon sizzled. "I am not used to being idle. In my people's way, everyone contributes what they can." Samuel nodded, understanding. He had grown up on a farm in Ohio where similar principles applied. "Then we'll work together." It was a simple statement, but it established the foundation of their relationship. Partnership rather than charity, mutual respect rather than obligation. As Ayana grew stronger, she began to venture outside, always staying close to the house at first. Samuel found her one morning sitting on the front porch, her face turned toward the rising sun, lips moving in what he realized was prayer. He started to retreat, not wanting to intrude, but she gestured for him to join her. "I was giving thanks," she said simply, "for the sunrise, for healing, for your kindness." Samuel settled into the chair beside her, his coffee cup warm between his hands. "What else do you pray for?" Ayana was quiet for a moment, her dark eyes scanning the horizon. "For my family, that they are safe wherever they are. For understanding between peoples who see each other as enemies. For the strength to find my path forward. And what do you think that path might be?" The question hung in the morning air between them. Ayana turned to study Samuel's face, noting the genuine interest in his eyes, the absence of judgment. "I don't know yet," she admitted. "For the first time in my life, I cannot see the way clearly. My people are scattered, the old ways are disappearing, and I find myself in a world I was taught to distrust, being cared for by a man I was told was my enemy." Samuel set down his coffee cup and leaned forward slightly. "Do you see me as your enemy?" Ayana met his gaze directly. "No, I see you as a man who has known loss, who chose compassion over fear, who makes coffee strong enough to wake the dead." A small smile played at the corners of her mouth. "Perhaps that makes you the most dangerous kind of enemy, one who makes it impossible to maintain hatred." Samuel laughed, a sound that surprised them both with its warmth. "Martha used to complain about my coffee too." "I wasn't complaining," Ayana said quickly. "I was observing. There is a difference." As the days passed, Samuel found himself looking forward to their morning conversations on the porch. Ayana had a way of seeing the world that challenged his assumptions and opened his eyes to details he had overlooked for years. She pointed out the way different bird calls indicated changes in weather, showed him tracks in the mud that revealed the nighttime activities of the ranch's wild visitors, and taught him to read the subtle signs that indicated when his cattle were content or restless. "Your land is healthy," she observed one morning as they walked the fence line together. "The grass is good, the water runs clean, the animals are fat and peaceful. You care for it well." Samuel felt a flush of pride at her assessment. "My father taught me that land isn't something you own. It's something you're entrusted with. You take care of it, and it takes care of you." Ayana nodded approvingly. "Your father was wise. My people believe the same thing. The earth is not ours to possess, but ours to protect for the children who will come after us." It was conversations like these that began to erode the walls Samuel had built around his heart. Ayana's perspectives on land, community, and responsibility aligned so closely with his own values that he sometimes forgot they came from supposedly incompatible cultures. He began to notice other things too, the way she hummed softly while doing household tasks, her voice carrying melodies he had never heard before. The careful way she tended the small garden behind the house, coaxing late-season vegetables to produce a final harvest. The gentle manner in which she interacted with the ranch animals, speaking to them in her own language with a tone that conveyed respect and affection. One afternoon, Samuel returned from checking the northern pasture to find Ayana sitting cross-legged in the garden, surrounded by the ranch's 3 cats. They were draped across her lap and shoulders with the boneless contentment of animals completely at ease. "They like you," Samuel observed, approaching slowly so as not to disturb the peaceful scene. "Animals sense intention," Ayana replied, scratching behind the ears of an orange tabby. "They know when someone means them harm and when someone offers friendship." Samuel settled on the ground nearby, noting how the cats remained relaxed in his presence. "What do they sense about me?" Ayana studied him with those perceptive dark eyes. "Sadness mostly, old pain that has been carried too long, but also kindness, strength, and—" She paused, tilting her head as if listening to something he couldn't hear. Longing. You long for connection, for purpose, for someone to see you as you truly are. Her words hit closer to home than Samuel was prepared for. He felt suddenly exposed, as if she had reached inside his chest and touched the raw places he had been protecting for years. "You see a lot for someone who's been here less than a week," he said, his voice rougher than he intended. "I have had practice reading people," Ayanna said gently. "Survival sometimes depends on understanding what someone wants before they speak it aloud." Samuel nodded, recognizing the truth in that statement. "And what do you think I want?" Ayanna was quiet for a long moment, her hand moving in slow strokes along the tabby's fur. When she spoke, her voice was soft but certain. "To matter to someone again. To have your days mean something beyond just getting through them. To share your mornings and your warnings with someone who understands the weight of both." The accuracy of her assessment left Samuel momentarily speechless. In the silence that followed, he felt something shifting inside him, a wall crumbling, a door opening that he had kept locked for 3 long years. "What about you?" he asked finally. "What do you want?" Ayanna lifted her face to the afternoon sun, her expression thoughtful. "I want to find my family, to know they are safe. I want to honor my ancestors while finding a way to live in this changing world. I want—" She hesitated, then met his eyes directly. "I want to matter to someone too. To be more than just a survivor, more than just someone who escaped when others did not." The honesty between them in that moment was startling in its intensity. Samuel felt as if they had crossed some invisible threshold, moved from the careful politeness of host and guest to something deeper and more significant. That evening, as Ayanna prepared dinner, Samuel found himself watching her with new awareness. The graceful way she moved around his kitchen, the careful attention she paid to seasoning and timing, the small humming sounds she made when she was concentrated, all of it filled the house with a warmth he hadn't felt since Martha's death. "Ayanna," he said suddenly, interrupting her stirring of the stew. She looked up, wooden spoon suspended mid-motion. "Yes?" "Thank you." "For cooking dinner?" she asked with a smile. "For being here, for—" He struggled with the words, unused to voicing such feelings. "For reminding me what it feels like to be alive instead of just surviving." In the quiet glow of the kitchen lamplight, Ayanna thanks Samuel for saving her, but he gently insists they saved each other. Their connection deepens as they share a tender moment, marked not by obligation, but by choice. A kiss, born of healing and trust, feels like the natural beginning of something new between them. As the first frost settles over the Colorado ranch, Ayanna recalls the Apache tradition of the first stories. Tales told in winter to pass down wisdom and identity. She begins to share these ancient stories with Samuel, her voice weaving together the spirit of her people and the rhythm of the land. Samuel, in turn, opens up with his own family's stories of hardship, resilience, and community. Through this ongoing exchange of stories and memories, Ayanna and Samuel slowly begin to bridge the wide gap between their worlds. Worlds shaped by different histories, beliefs, and experiences. Though their origins are distinct, they discover shared values that run deeper than surface differences. Resilience in the face of hardship, reverence for nature, the strength of community, and the importance of honoring those who came before. What begins as an unexpected connection slowly blossoms into something far richer, not only a tender and growing romance, but also a profound cultural dialogue. In the quiet evenings by the fire, where words carry the weight of generations, they listen to one another with open hearts. The stories they share become more than just tales. They become a language of trust, healing, and mutual respect. Through these moments, their bond transforms into a living tapestry, woven from both the pain and beauty of their pasts. An intimate, sacred space where love is nurtured not in spite of their differences, but because of the strength they find within them. As winter deepened, Samuel and Ayanna found sanctuary in the warmth of their shared solitude. The ranch house became their entire world, sustained by Samuel's careful preparations. A full root cellar, stocked barn, and woodshed packed with split logs. But it was the emotional warmth that truly carried them through the dark months. They created new routines together, Samuel reading aloud while Ayanna worked intricate beadwork by the fire, cooking meals that blended her knowledge of native plants with his frontier cooking, and spending cold nights talking quietly in bed, discovering deep compatibility beneath their obvious differences. Their peaceful isolation shattered in early March when Samuel spotted ominous black smoke rising from the southern valley. Despite his protests, Ayanna insisted on riding with him to investigate, arguing that he needed someone who could read signs and move unseen. Together, they discovered the burned remains of the Hendricks homestead, with Jake Hendricks and his brother Tom lying dead in the yard, arrows protruding from their bodies. While Samuel initially assumed it was Apache work, Ayanna's careful examination of the scene revealed a disturbing truth. The arrows were placed wrong for Apache warriors, and cavalry boot prints surrounded the area instead of moccasin tracks. Someone had staged the attack to look like an Apache raid, likely to justify increased military action against her people and provide excuses for breaking treaties. The realization chilled Samuel as he understood the impossible position her people faced, caught between a government that saw them as obstacles and civilians who feared them as killers. After burying the dead with prayers in both their traditions, they rode home in troubled silence. Ayanna finally voiced what they both knew. That word would eventually spread about Samuel harboring an Apache woman, bringing questions and accusations to their door. Samuel's response was unwavering. This was his land, she was his invited guest, and anyone who wanted to make trouble would have to go through him first. His absolute certainty in their relationship and his willingness to fight for it brought the first genuine smile to Ayanna's face since their grim discovery. That night, as wind howled around the house, Ayanna shared her people's tradition of couples planting a tree together when binding their lives, something to grow and strengthen with the years, providing shelter for future generations. Samuel chose an oak for its strength and deep roots, while Ayanna preferred a cottonwood for its resilience and the music its leaves made in the wind. Their decision to plant both trees side by side with intertwined roots became a promise of commitment to a future they couldn't fully envision, but were willing to work toward together, drawing strength from a love already proven stronger than the prejudices and fears that sought to destroy it. Spring came late to Colorado that year, and with it came trouble. Samuel spotted the dust cloud of approaching cavalry while mending fence, and Ayanna appeared silently beside him as the riders drew near. Captain William Morrison led 6 soldiers to the ranch, claiming Ayanna was wanted for participating in the Hendricks family massacre. His evidence was damning, a beaded pouch belonging to Ayanna found at the crime scene. Just as Morrison moved to arrest her, Judge Tom Bradley arrived unexpectedly. The territorial judge had been investigating the case and brought shocking news. Ayanna's family had survived the winter military action and were safe at Fort Collins Reservation. More importantly, Bradley questioned the circumstantial evidence and offered Ayanna a choice: face military questioning at the fort or remain under house arrest at the ranch while he conducted a proper investigation. She chose to stay with Samuel. Over the following weeks, Bradley's methodical investigation revealed a sinister truth. The real killers weren't Apache warriors, but civilian contractors working with corrupt cavalry elements, including Morrison himself. They had staged the attacks to look like Indian raids while eliminating homesteaders who refused to sell their land to railroad interests. The Hendricks family had been murdered simply for standing in the way of profit. Morrison was court-martialed, and Ayanna was completely cleared of all charges. Free to choose her path, Ayanna faced an agonizing decision between her family and the life she'd built with Samuel. She chose both, deciding to visit her people at the reservation but return to the ranch. Samuel had secretly prepared for this moment, presenting her with legal documents that would transform their future. Permission to establish a trading post on the ranch, a bridge between worlds where Apache families could visit and trade fairly. The trading post opened that fall as the aspens turned gold. Ayanna's reunion with her family brought tears and joy, especially when her father Two Bears and mother Gentle Dawn welcomed Samuel as a son. In October, under the cottonwoods where they first met, Judge Bradley married them with both families as witnesses. Following Apache tradition, they planted two trees together, an oak and a cottonwood, whose roots would intertwine as their lives had intertwined. Years passed, and the trading post grew into a thriving community. Their own children played beneath the oak and cottonwood, now tall and strong with intertwined branches. Samuel would sometimes stand by the river at dawn, remembering that first morning when he thought he was simply saving a drowning woman's life, never knowing that in rescuing her, he would discover his own salvation. The trees stood as living proof that different worlds could create something more beautiful together than either could achieve alone. Their leaves making music in the wind, a song of resilience, hope, and two hearts that had found their home in each other.